Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at creating a single view application and then adding an additional scene and then how to navigate from one scene to another using a simple segue. So I'm going to create a single view application. I'll call it multiple scenes. And since we're using Xcode 9 and iOS 2.3, I'm going to change the compatibility here, so just add a quick setting. And let's flip over to our storyboard. So in our single view application, we have a single view controller scene with a single view controller in it. And right now it just has a generic name, view controller. So we can add a second scene. I'm going to give this one a label real quick. We can add a second scene very easily. So I'm going to go down here and add a view controller. So this is how we add a second scene to our app. And you can see over on the left hand side it adds a scene with our new view controller here. And if I click view controller, notice it highlights. I'm going to add a label so we can identify it. Okay, so now we have two view controllers. And right now, this view controller does not have any source code attached to it. So right now, it's just a way to view some information on the screen. And if we look at it, it just has a generic name. If we flip over to the identity inspector, there's no name associated with it. We can actually add a name to it. So if we call this, actually let's add to this scene 1. So there's two ways to add a name really to this view controller. One is to add a label, or to click over on the view controller and right click and change the name. So I'll call this scene 1. And again, scene 2 doesn't have any source code. A second way to add a name to it is to add a source code file. So we need to add our own source code file. And let's take a look at real quick at scene 1. So scene 1 was what was added for us by our Xcode template. And if we click on it, you can see here our view controller is added visually on our storyboard. But also we are given this file, viewcontroller.swift. And viewcontroller.swift inherits from a class called UIViewController. And that's how this source code file interacts with the view controller. So what they've done is they've created a storyboard with a view controller in it, and that view controller has a setting that's in the storyboard that's associated with this view controller source code file. So in order to add source code to the view controller we just added, we need to add a new source code file. So let's go to the project navigator and down on the left hand side click on the plus button and add a new file. And the type of class is Cocoa Touch class. Cocoa Touch is Apple's set of classes we can use to interact with all the objects in our iOS project. And I'm going to call this the Scene 2 view controller. Maybe a little bit of a redundant name, but so now we have Scene 2 view controller, and you can see again it inherits from UI view controller. And now we're going to go back to our storyboard, and you can see Scene 2. We click on the view controller. It does not have a class associated with it. Well, we can add a custom class. Now our Scene 2 view controller file is available. So just select that, and you can see that it labels it for us over on the left hand side. So we don't need this arbitrary label because it's going to show us the name of our class. Now we can still change it, and it'll change it over there, but better to keep the class name, I think. Okay, So now we've got our two view controllers. Now we want to navigate. Now we want to navigate from scene 1 to scene 2. So let's do this. Let's throw a button on there just so we have something to interact with. And we'll say go to scene 2. So now we're going to click on this scene 2 button and navigate to scene 2. The way we navigate from one screen to another, or one view controller to another, is to use what's called segues. And to add a segue, you simply hold down Control, click on the button, and drag to the view controller that you would like to navigate to. Okay, so just like adding an outlet or an action. And when we do that, when we're going from one view controller to another, it presents us with this dialog to add a segue. And there, you can see there's lots of different segues. We're going to focus on one in this video, and it's present modally. And remember that presenting something modally means that we're going to finish a task in this new view that pops up, and then close it to return back to the other screen. So, traditionally a modal window or dialog means that we're going to lock the rest of the application up until we're done with that task. Present as popover is going to present a smaller window that doesn't cover the whole screen typically, and has a few tasks. So we'll take a look at that later. And then show and show detail really deal with a little more fine-grained control of having like a chain of events. So like moving from 1 to 2 to 3 to step 4 and so on. So anyway, in this one we're going to take a look at present modally, look at some later videos for the other types of segues. And we add the segue, it's going to add a visual showing the segue between scene 1 and 2. We can actually click on it, and over here in the Attributes Inspector window, we can actually give it an identifier. It's a good idea to give all of your segues identifiers because we might have several segues associated with a scene or with our app, and it's good to know which ones we're working with when we select the segue. So I'm going to call this to scene 2. And there we have it. So now if we run the app, we can see, first of all, we've got more than one view controller in there. The second view controller has a UIViewController class that we created associated with it. We haven't done anything with that yet, but we can add some custom code. And then also we've got a button that has a segue associated with it called to scene 2. So when we click on the button, it's actually going to navigate to scene 2, or it's going to present it modally. So that's it. An easy way to add additional scenes using a new view controller and view controller class, and an easy way to navigate from one scene to the other using a present modally segue. Thanks.